o'clock public hearing from this morning, and at this time we'll have staff introduce the first item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Amanda Swindle with the County Attorney's Office. I have your 5 o'clock public hearing. This is the first public hearing to adopt an ordinance amending the Land Development Code to provide very limited regulation of mobile food vendors. If you recall, a couple of years ago, the state essentially preempted local governments from many of the types of regulations of mobile food vendors. The ordinance you see before you is a very limited set of regulations to define locations and standards of operation. There's been some committee comments since the initial draft, and I believe DCD is going to work to incorporate those comments before the next public hearing. Staff from DCD is available if you'd like to hear any more information on that update. Otherwise, I would request a motion that you send this to second public hearing to occur on December 7th at 9:30 a.m.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. At this time, we'll come back to the board for any questions. I know we have some public comment tonight also. No questions at this time?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and call for public comment. Danny, you said you're not wishing to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Sandy Stillwell, would you like to address the board on this item?
Hi, I'm Sandy Stillwell Youngquist, and I'm just here. I just heard about this this morning. I'm listening to the news on ABC, and I just wanted to make sure that when you were adopting this ordinance, that you take into consideration a few things that, I see it from a very unique perspective of a restaurant owner. And I have 5 restaurants on Captiva Island, and I have about a $2.25 million payroll. And with COVID, I never laid one person off. I continued keeping them right from the get-go. Even when PPP, when you got some money back, I lost $500,000 just because I did the right thing. And, I think that's important. I'm always protecting my staff. And if food vendors were able to come in with food trucks on Captiva, it would definitely impact the restaurants that are there. But there are other areas of Lee County that would probably not have any impact, or if you're thinking about converting a park into a whole village. I love the idea of the food trucks. Don't get me wrong. I think they're fun, and at the right venue, it works well. But I just wanted to make sure that all the ordinances, and I did speak with Andrea today, and she explained a lot of things to me, which was very helpful, and she was helpful to me. But I think that 50-foot from the nearest place, I think, needs to be addressed, needs to be much more than 50 feet. Some of my lots on Captiva are only 50 feet wide. And then, you could have, let's say, a little gift shop that's out there, and they can say, oh, my brother has a food truck, let me just let him park the food truck, and as long as he has permission, it's fine. But, when I go to open a restaurant, I have to make sure I have enough parking spaces. For every square foot, I'm only allowed, and many of them, I only have the beer wine license because I don't have enough parking spaces to allow for the full liquor license. And I just want to make sure that in the essence of being fair, that these things are addressed. Also, the thought occurred to me, what would happen, so you've adopted this ordinance, and it's a food truck, but what happens if someone retrofits a boat, and now it's a mobile food boat that can go up and down and park in front of Fort Myers Beach, Bonita Beach, Sanibel Island, any of the places, Captiva. But in those places, they all, are pretty much incorporated, except Captiva Island is the lone one out there that doesn't have maybe a city ordinance that you could depend upon, and it's the tightest location. So I'm not against food trucks, but I am about property rights, and I just got assessed about $125,000 for the beach renourishment that we're going through right now. Now, $125,000 about every 7 years is a lot of money, and on top of it, $150,000 in taxes and $300,000 in insurance, and you got to sell a lot of burgers to make that thing profitable. And so I just wanted you to keep that in mind when you make your decisions. And that's about all I have to say. Y'all do a good job. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comment at this time? Okay, we'll come back to the board for more discussion. Richard, do you want to say something?
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to point out that we're here this evening compliments of the state legislature, not necessarily by choice. As Amanda pointed out, through their wisdom, they did preempt local regulations to a large extent, and this is our attempt to come in compliance with that preemption. What I would suggest, since this is your first public hearing, we've heard the speaker's comments. As I understand them, her concerns are the 50-foot setback and then the issue of boats serving as food trucks. If you're so inclined, we would take that under advisement. We'll get with appropriate staff and the speaker between now and your final public hearing.
Okay. I have some comments. Would anybody else like to have any comments first? Any other board members?
Yeah, for the county attorney, if you wouldn't mind just framing that for me and what we could anticipate in the December meeting and what you might do. Relative to the comments that were just made, I'm just trying to visualize, what December might look like.
I'm not necessarily in a position to comment on the reasonableness of the 50 versus the 100. That's what we want to talk about.
Okay.
Make sure that if we're inclined to go to a higher standard, that there's a rational basis for that. And then I think also under the state definition of a mobile food vehicle, there's some question whether a boat would fit within that criteria or not, but we'll be able to comment on those two issues in
That's
greater
probably where
detail.
I was going. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. So that question, I have posed the same question. And for example, like we heard public comment today, Captiva, for example, if there's any other beach in Lee County, Fort Beach, Bonita Beach, Sanibel, the cities have jurisdiction there. I just wonder what we can do to protect Captiva. So Captiva, we are the government body over that area. So how is this going to affect Captiva? And I understand we're regulated with the state, but what we can do to protect some of those areas like that are unique. So it's not becomes a congested. We don't look like a circus out in Captiva where you have all the different trucks out there. And it's also hurting the local established businesses too that, will still be there when the trucks leave. We want them to, obviously welcome this. We're trying to improve the whole food truck so we can have this as vendors throughout the county, but also we don't want to hurt the existing businesses. So if you could, like Commissioner Wing, frame that out, see what a 100-foot setback would look like, 150-foot setback, if there's possible, what our parameters are, what we can, and how far back we can go with that.
Will do. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I think, to your point, so it's not only just Captiva, but, we do also have Boca Grande to deal with.
Yep.
And, again, I have more than enough empathy and sympathy for the speaker because having run a business and still running businesses and having over 400 employees, I know what it is to try to make that payroll on a week in and week out basis. So I'm also want to be, very helpful to the businesses that are here and a long-established business. So I'm not trying to take away from their livelihood either.
Great. Thank you.
I understand.
Mr. Chairman, we used to have a lot of complaints in Lehigh in particular because it's primarily residential out there, and it seems like a whole lot of residents want to just put a barbecue grill in their front yard and say fajitas for sale or whatever on a little sign. That we pretty well got under control by code enforcement and whatnot. But as I understand where we're moving here, if we move this forward to the final hearing, that will give Ms. Youngquist time to explore this a little further, and anyone else. And staff could come back with some modest changes that we could entertain at the next hearing.
Yes, sir.
I'm fine with that, and I'll move this to the next hearing.
We have a motion.
I'll second moving it to the next hearing. I look forward to the discussion in December.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any objections? No objection, motion carries. And we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.